Each year, hundreds of thousands of people visit the Lego house, and now there's a new challenge on Lego Ideas. Now, there are 72 builds that you can vote for, and there are supposedly going to be 25 winners across 3 categories. Those 3 categories are quite simple. The secret life of what happens below decks, under the streets, inside the machine. Let your creativity run free and show us a side of the world we don't normally see. Reminds me very much of a challenge that we saw in Series 4 of LEGO Masters Australia.
This build is called Secret City. It's your job to build the intriguing other side of what is going on your city block.
Somewhere that LEGO seems to get a lot of their later ideas from. Must be nice. Then there is the Flora and Fauna category, where we can show off the beauty of nature in plants, flowers, etc., everything that makes up the natural world, and Mashup Madness. Pirates meets the medieval, or dinosaurs meets music and dance. Okay, the winners are going to receive quite a few goodies, but the main thing is that these are going to be on display in the Lego house. So whilst they're not supposedly going to be made into official sets that can be bought, this is nonetheless still a big deal. Winning this is going to mean a lot to the fan designer involved. Now, you have 3 votes, 1 per category, and I will put the link in the description below. You only have until September the 12th unless they change it, so make sure to head on over there and vote. With that in mind, let's take a look at the 72 builds proposed. So, in no particular order, we're going to start with this one, the majestic peregrine falcon. And while I can't say it's a perfect recreation of the fastest bird in the wild, it's certainly not bad. The shaping is very impressive, and whilst I'm never a fan of these particular elements being used in the back for the wings, would have preferred a little bit more layering there and some more texture, it's pretty impressive, particularly the head and beak shaping, and also what's been done on the chest. Quite a pretty build to be sure, and starts us off with a pretty high bar that other sets are going to have to beat. Next up for Flora and Fauna is the bear cub on its first hunt, and let me just say, I'm going to be judging these purely on what the title is and what the bricks themselves say. If I look at them and can't understand what a story is, I'm not going to be bothering to go down here and read it. The bricks have to do the talking. That is the purpose of this challenge. Thankfully, that's not a problem here. You can immediately tell the story behind this, and I think it's super cute. Wonderful little bear cub. I like the terrain and the water, and of course the little fish as well. And this is brilliant. A little Easter egg of a teddy bear and a fish down in a cave. Assuming that's not actually supposed to be the bear cub, because of course this is technically the bear cub. I don't think it's mummy bear and little bear. I think this is just for humour, having a little teddy bear down there, and it's a wonderful touch. I think this is quite simple. It's not using that many bricks, but every single one that's been used has a real purpose behind it. The look is brilliant, and it's one of those builds that has a bit of an emotional attachment to it. It really feels to me like something that's been caught out of a wildlife documentary and turned into Lego, and I really do like it. So immediately a very strong contender for my vote. I'll reserve judgment till the end, but I do think that this looks really good. Number 3 for Flora and Fauna is the vintage Spanish moon moth in a frame. Now, this does look fairly impressive, and if we take a look at the Spanish moon moth, it's certainly not a bad recreation at all. About as close as you can possibly get, actually, in the colours available to us in LEGO Elements at the moment. It's another one that's quite simple, not too many bricks to this, but each done nicely. But as far as small builds go, I have to say that our previous entry wins out for me over this. So definitely not bad, but wouldn't be my personal choice. Then we have the old oak tree, and this is a very charming and idyllic scene, capturing nature at its finest. I think if we all imagine a sort of tranquil, picturesque nature scene, this would fit very well in with it. We've got the little rabbits under the tree in their burrow, some more around by the water, and of course our deer coming in for a drink. It's just a very simple, picturesque and pretty little build. Lots of foliage, plenty of colour. Is it something outstanding though? I can't say so. I don't think it's different enough, doesn't really deserve to be part of an exhibition, in my opinion. And look, that's nothing against any of these designers. These are just my personal opinions. I just think that if it's going to be on display in the Lego house, it needs to have a little bit of something about it that makes it different and makes you stop and stare. I think it's beautiful. It's the sort of thing I would happily have on display in the house, but I don't think that it's a showstopper. So not the strongest, I don't think. Moving on then, the peacock is up next, and this is an interesting one. White peacocks do exist in nature, but I don't think they're the first thing that any of us would think of when you see peacock. You normally think of the bird being extremely coloured. However, this has been paired with lots of colour in the flowers down here. Okay, the botanicals are where the colour is. The peacock is purely white, and it's definitely an interesting contrast. Immediately striking, the head and neck are simply done, but very nicely shaped. And of course, all the texture going on in the tail down here, the plumage is very impressive. I think it's quite striking, very different, avoids the immediate obvious trope of having the colour in the peacock, and that contrast works really nicely to my mind. So it does seem a little bit more artsy, the sort of thing you could expect from an exhibition. Then we have the bunny in spring, and very cutesy, certainly a nice fun little build, but very simplistic compared to already the others that we have seen, so definitely not topping my list. Then the first of our owls. We're going to see quite a few owls in the lineup, and this barn owl is not bad, but it's certainly not the best of the ones that we are going to see. It's an interesting little diorama flying out of the night sky, supposedly much closer to the viewer than the trees down below. And that moon in the background. For me, however, the forced perspective is definitely not working here. The scaling just doesn't seem right, and the owl is not particularly that impressive. Again, when I'm being harsh on these, it's not an offence against the designers. I never want to put anybody down. I think anybody who submits to this should be commended, and this is actually a pretty impressive build. The sort of thing that people should be proud of. I'm just judging these in comparison to the others as far as a worthy winner for this contest should go. But please don't get me wrong, the actual build itself is pretty cool. And my hat does go off to everyone who actually submits for these things. I think that is to be commended. To our next one then, and we have the hyacinth macaw family. This is very nicely done. A lot of texture going on in the feathers of the wings there, which I always really appreciate. I think that's very nice. If we have a look at the hyacinth macaw itself, again, pretty accurate representation as far as colours chosen there. The head and neck shaping certainly isn't bad either, although I do think that the beak could have just been made a little bit more prominent. Aside from that, I really like the little chick poking out of the tree down here. The tree is not particularly doing it for me, I have to say, but the birds are pretty cool. I like all the texture of the plumage on the bodies as well. They look really nice. It's quite a sweet little build. So maybe just a few tweaks, and then this one could be a real contender. I do like it quite a bit. By comparison, I have to say I do not like the puffin that we have here. The choice to not show the eyes is not one that I agree with. When you have such a sparse base plate, nothing else going on, the focus is all about the main buildable model, and if you're going to do that, it has to be perfect. This certainly isn't bad. The shaping is very impressive. It's not easy to do that with Lego bricks, so that bit's to be commended, but it's not fantastic. I don't like the head. Leaving out the eyes to me is a mistake, and it's just not impressive enough compared to the others that we've already seen, and compared to some of the ones to come. I don't think that it will win out. So we then have our flower peacock. Very big contrast compared to the white peacock that we saw earlier on. This one immediately hitting us with different colour, although I have to say, compared to even the Creator 3-in-1 peacock that Lego themselves gave us, I don't like the colours that have been chosen on this as much. That said, the detailing of the head, and particularly the eyes that we have here, is very nice. The sort of combination of flowers with the bird itself is an interesting sort of mashup, and it does have a huge amount of texture going on, which makes it very impressive, of course, with all of these different pieces being used. But for me, it's just a case when less really could be more. Too much going on here, particularly from this angle. It looks a little bit messy to me, just far too much colour. I don't like it as much as that other peacock that we already saw. Now then, for something quite different, a set of quills. 3 writing quills, very ornate in their decoration. Here is something that is extremely simple, using very few Lego elements to create something that is elegant, delicate, and highly colourful. It's definitely a left of field idea, very out of the box, and for that reason, I do quite like it. As an idea, it has been executed extremely well, and I think it deserves to be commended in that regard. That said, very simplistic compared to some of the others, and so it isn't where my vote will be going. I always think it's brave, though, of people to do things that are quite so different as this. and the execution is top notch. Really do like it in that regard. Next up then we have Demeter. It says goddess of agriculture. She was the goddess of the harvest in ancient Greece, mother of Persephone, who famously was taken down to hell by Hades, but fell in love with him there. Supposedly, according to ancient Greek myth, Demeter was so enraged by this that she neglected the crops, hence why they withered in autumn and disappeared in winter, but a deal was struck whereby her daughter Persephone would return to her 6 months of the year, having also fallen in love with Hades in return, and so therefore she would sort of become joyous, and that's why we get the harvest again. Obviously with the crops growing comes spring and into summer, and then autumn and winter, Persephone goes back down to spend 6 months with Hades. So that's the ancient Greek story for those of you who wanted a little lecture. The build itself, really quite nice. The character isn't fantastic. I've definitely seen stronger. That said, it's not bad, especially for the size. And when paired with the tree, it actually becomes really quite pretty and elegant. I like this quite a bit. With a little bit of reworking on the actual character of Demeter herself, I think this would make for a very nice little display. Now then, the Ranger in the Woods. I'm really tempted to read the description to see what the story is on this, but I said I'm not going to do that, so I won't. The bricks need to do the talking, so I'm not sure what the character is exactly, other than sort of Robin Hood type squirrel. Interesting thought. I really do like the shaping. A little bit bulky on the shoulders and arms. They're not delicate enough as they should be in comparison with the head, but the positioning and the holding of the bow, that's really quite cool. I hate trees when they're just cut off like this. I appreciate that's the way it has to be given the size of the rest of the build. It's just not something that I particularly care for. However, lots of colour and texture going on there. Really quite pretty, especially with the background of the plants going on. And again, very sort of out of the box thinking on this one, which I always appreciate. Not my favourite, but I do think that if this was on display in the Lego house, it's the sort of thing that you would sort of stop and spend quite a few minutes having a look at from different angles to see everything that's going on. So pretty impressive there. Will be quite deserving for the votes that it does garner. We then have the famous yellow flowers. And look, they're nicely put together. However, very simplistic. Can't say that I find this particularly stand out compared to the others that we've already looked at, so not for me. Then Snow White's been added again. Can't keep away from them apples. This one has been placed on a chopping board, bitten down to the core. This is the sort of thing I find really disturbing. Don't know what it says about me, but I love the sort of look of a pristine whole apple on display on the side, you know, in a bowl in the kitchen. Having one with a single bite out of it or gnawed down to the core like this, it just sends a shiver down my spine. I really don't like it. I think that says a lot more about me, though, than it does the Lego bricks. Because of that, I can't say that it will be getting my vote. But you know what? Shaping-wise, it's been done well. I think the very fact that looking at this makes me feel a bit icky just says quite how well it's captured the look of an apple that's been taken down to the core. So definite thumbs up in that regard, but sorry, you're not getting my vote. So then, the ant nest. What do I make of this one? Well, a nice balance of different things going on with the rather beautiful, albeit simple, flower that we've got in the background here, and our actual ant's nest with the little bits of fauna going on around it. The ants themselves do always look quite monstrous when they're blown up to this size. I always think they're quite cute little things in real life, but yeah, as soon as you magnify them, they become rather horrendous. I forget which film it is that has a sort of giant ant running around in it, but I always thought that was a little bit scary. So again, not sure that I like this, might give me the heebie-jeebies, but plenty going on. Very impressive creatures, of course, with the amounts of weights that they can carry on their backs. And yeah, this is a nice little build. Not the top of the pile for me, but certainly not bad. Now then, another owl. One fell swoop. And wow, this is immediately magnificent. I adore the colours that are in this. It's absolutely stunning. I think this stands a very good chance of being chosen. I think it would be highly deserving of a lot of votes. If this was put on display, I think you'd spend a lot of time looking at it. Let me just say right now, the sort of easel and paintbrush that's going on here, I don't like any of that. I don't like the background of the easel. I don't like what's going on underneath it. It's not for me at all. I find it a bit distracting and it detracts from the build. But this owl, just wow, the colours chosen, beautiful, the size of the eyes, the shaping of the head, all of the texture that's going on in the feathers. I think this is superb. Really, really colourful. It's art. It is Lego turned into art. You get that from time to time, and it's simply stunning. Very cleverly put together. So, you know, I don't particularly like the background, but the owl itself, wow. I think that could be very strong for the win. So then, on to this, minifigures in bloom. It's just amazing the things that different people come up with. Never would I have thought of that. Basically, a load of flowers using minifigure elements. You've got everything going on in here, from hats and hair pieces through to legs and torsos, even the feathers from the hats. It's just weird, wacky, very strange. It doesn't work for me when you look at it closely, but you know, when it's pulled back, they do look very much like just exotic plants. And you know, using just minifig parts and accessories like the watering cans, it's definitely nice parts usage. There's no denying that. Pretty cool, very different, a lot of interest going on in there, so doesn't stand a bad chance. Also, as a contender is the bonsai tree. Sadly, however, Lego has already given us a bonsai tree, one that, for me, looks considerably better than this. So I'd be very shocked if this was chosen. Don't think that it'll be in the running. Of course, if you disagree, as always, let me know in the comments down below. Always open to that. Then we have By the River. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Thankfully, this one seems to be doing it by itself, and I do like the use of the little 1x1 tiles down here to create that look of the nose just breaking the water and having a drink. That's very nicely done. The horse itself, it's not bad. Okay, the shaping is pretty decent on there. It's not brilliant though. It's not perfectly in proportion. Slightly comical in places to me. Don't like these eyes that have been used. The head, it's not quite right, but I am being picky, and you know, could I do better? Probably not. It's just one of the things where I can see it can be improved, so naturally voice my mind. But it's a cool scene. Love the way that it's drinking there. And I do think with a few tweaks that could actually be a really nice one. So again, congratulations for just a really cool submission. Like it a lot. And now, if you thought the owls were over, you can think again. Next up, we have this one. Very striking immediately, particularly on this branch with this particular colour chosen for the leaves. It works very well. The owl itself, it's very different from that previous one that we just had a look at, but very striking in its own way. The head shaping and that intent look of the eyes has been done magnificently, and all the texture of the feathers there, zoom back in, looks really good. I'd love to have this on display. I think it's very striking, and once again, the sort of thing, if they did put this in the exhibition, you'd spend quite a bit of time looking around this. Very impressive. So again, big thumbs up from me. I score it very highly. It's definitely in the running for my vote. It's getting really quite difficult now. There's been 3 or 4 so far that really stand out, and this is one of them for me. Looks beautiful. It seems a little unfair to make this one follow it. Local Birds. It's of course very different in its style and been done very nicely. Sadly, I just feel that it doesn't stand up to some of those previous ones that we've looked at, not nearly as striking. However, this sort of 2D style effect is pretty cool. It got the perspective quite nicely with the ship way off there in the distance and our gull in the front. Comes with a couple of little minifigures as well, so it's certainly not bad. Been really nicely done, just not up to the standard of some of the other submissions to my eye. So, Sleep is My Superpower comes up next. A rather cute but slightly bedraggled looking red panda. Maybe not bedraggled, just worn out. It's really quite cool. I like the expression that's been captured here. It's sort of like it's just finished a load of chores, finally lain down, and has just been called again by the other half. Come on, you've forgotten to do the dishes. Oh, just laying down. It's that sort of look to me. I like it quite a bit. Not a fan of the trans pieces that have been used here. I know that they're obviously just to heighten the branch up, but in this particular case, they kind of stand out like a sore thumb. So maybe some other form of support, some vines or something could be used instead. Otherwise, though, really like it. Very characterful. Could just do with some more detail. Those are my thoughts on it. But yeah, that made me laugh. Really did. Then we have the kookaburra, and this one's been put together quite interestingly. I'm not entirely sure if this is supposed to be a robotic kookaburra. Again, I'm not reading the descriptions. The bricks have to do the talking. The choice of pieces used here do confuse me somewhat. There's quite a big difference between nice parts usage and just confusing parts. It kind of captures the shaping and some of the colours, but I think it misses quite a bit actually. Just the head shaping, the massive eye that's been chosen there isn't right, and yeah, I can't get over the choice of pieces. Maybe it's supposed to be a kind of a robot kookaburra, but then that doesn't seem to go with this particular category. So without reading the description, which I've said I'm not going to do on these, I find that the storytelling is missing on this one, so it's a pass from me. By contrast, we have the urban jungle. This is something that's immediately speaking to me. I think it's a brilliant build. Adore the use of colours that are in here, and this sort of joining of everything built by man and of course nature's beautiful splendour. It all matches together really well. Looking through these photos, the more time you spend staring at it, the more little things that you see, and it just makes me smile. I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm not sure whether the story here is that nature is taking back over sort of in a kind of post-apocalyptic way, because I mean that crane certainly doesn't look operational with the vines growing over it, or indeed this tree like this, or if it's supposed to be sort of a harmony between the two. That's a little bit unclear to me, so perhaps a slight markdown in the storytelling department, but there's no denying that it's pretty. I really do like it. I think it's a very good build and would certainly fit in very well in the Lego House exhibition. Then lastly, for the Flora and Fauna section, we have our fawn in Flora. And wow, what a buildable figure this is. I think this is stunning. Absolutely stunning. I can't see what pieces from this angle are being used to make the eyelashes on here. Maybe, trying to think, like little saucepans or something. I just can't zoom in close enough on here to make out what they are, but it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely stunning. The shaping is magnificent. This layering of all the different plants and leaves around it, just perfect, as indeed is the butterfly just perched on the ear. It's wonderful. Let's not forget the colouring, a choice of pieces that have been used to make up our fawn itself. The colours are outstanding and the shaping is quite incredible. I really do think it is very deserving of winning and being put on the exhibition. I've told you which ones I've really liked so far. I have to say, I've been very torn as to where to send my vote. I think it's probably going to have to go here. Just when I saw this, I stopped and just stared at all the different pictures for a minute before recording, because I think this has really captured a moment. It's like we've wandered into a little glade and seen this fawn asleep, and it's beautiful. I feel like it could just open its eyes at any moment, and that is something that is so hard to do in Lego. So my hat really goes off for a build like this. I don't think I could do it. It's absolutely magnificent. Let me know what you think of it below. I don't know if it will win, but if it does, extraordinarily deserving. Okay, on then to the Secret Life of section, starting with this, the Secret Life of Pirates. What goes on behind the scenes? This is where the bricks really do need to do the storytelling. So not reading the descriptions, the bricks have to do the talking here. I'm guessing obviously by the fish that we have, that our pirate ship has somewhat sunk below the waves. Not quite sure why the minifigures are so merrily going about their business in that particular case. So I do find the story a little bit confusing on this one. We'll put that to one side though and say that as far as the build goes, it's pretty kooky and out there. Would look cool on show, but I think could really do with a bit more going on in the middle. There are certainly others to come that are certainly more outstanding than this. Then there is the Secret Life of our ATM, very blocky in its design. Can't say that it makes for a particularly nice looking model to my eye. Kind of funny that there's supposedly somebody doing it the old fashioned way before handing out the money. Although in my experience of ATMs, it's usually just a case of they've run out of a particular size of note, which is irritating. Look, it's a fun idea, but I don't like the way that it's been put together. I'm just personally not a fan of this particular styling when it comes to Lego. Moving on, we come to the Secret Life of a computer. And if this is what goes on inside computers, it would explain why they take such a bloody long time to actually do things. Like when I'm trying to edit these videos. Doesn't seem to matter how much RAM I've got in it. I'm always waiting around before I can hit upload. This could be the answer. That aside, I don't like it. I have to say, the character doesn't do anything for me. I find it a bit confusing. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of the story is without reading the description. So it will be a pass from me. By comparison, I really quite like this one. Secret Life of a Pencil Sharpener. Look, I don't think it's that deserving because it's kind of hard to see what's going on. It's very cramped. It's dark in there. But it's just funny to think that there's a little shark inside a pencil sharpener chomping away. It's a fun idea. I think the execution definitely could have been better. A little bit too cramped. Definitely amusing. Made me chuckle. Moving on, we come to the clock owl here. If you watched the previous section on the flora and fauna, you know that there were quite a few owls involved in that. This one's certainly not standing up to those levels. It's a very small and therefore not particularly detailed thing. But you know what? With the pizza box and the little alarm clock in there to remind it when to do its job, I think it's cool and funny. And the clock itself has a lot of nice decoration in there. So it's a decent concept and certainly one that would be deserving of a few votes. I think it's been nicely thought through. We then have the Secret Life of the Tooth Fairy. This would be a great one for kids to have a look at. I think they'd enjoy it a lot. It's quite simplistic, but the idea itself is interesting. Sadly, I just don't feel that you would be able to spend much time looking at this for very long at all in an exhibition. There's just not really enough to it. I don't understand what the secret really is here, other than just, yeah, she goes to bed when she's not working. So not enough going on to my mind. We then have the Secret Life of the Mushroom Sprite, who looks like she's having a whale of a time in her bathtub with her pussy, getting all wet and soapy with those mushrooms around. What more could you ask for from a Lego build? It's very cutesy, fun little details throughout, good use of colour, kind of one-dimensional again to me in the sense of, you know, you look at it, you've seen it, you move on, thinking of an exhibition. It's not one that you'd spend much time looking around at from different angles, I don't think. But again, just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Far better is this, I think, The Secret Life of a Toaster. Of course there's a little dragon in it who's doing the toasting. We even get a couple of knights thrown in there as well. Black Falcons by the look of it, but you know, maybe other factions are available, of course. It's a cool thing. I love the look of the design on the inside. People's imaginations are brilliant at some point. I don't think I'd ever think of, oh, what's inside a toaster? Of course, it's a little dragon that's doing the work. Really, really cool. Big thumbs up from me. The camera is up next, and the secret here being that there is a little artist inside actually painting what the camera is pointing at. And that's quite fun. Now, sadly, I am a little bit tired of seeing camera builds. They keep cropping up in Lego Ideas, and of course, Lego has done both the Polaroid and the retro one recently. So I'm kind of a little bit over that idea at the moment. Personal feelings on it aside, it's a cool thought, isn't it? That's actually what's going on inside a camera. So cool idea. Execution's not bad either. Along a similar vein, but even better, is this a photocopier, and this one makes far more sense to me. You put it in and there's a bunch of little artists who are copying what's being put out on the other side. Brilliant idea, looks really good, super fun. There's not loads going on to it, so I can't say people would spend ages looking at it to pick out different things, but I think it would get a lot of attention in an exhibition. It's just very funny, great concept, nicely executed, definitely in the running. We then come to the Secret Life of the News, and of course our newsreader is really a puppet being controlled by all of these rats. Not sure if that's a particular link to the media in general. It's kind of fun and quirky. I do like it. It's giving me deja vu of something else though. I feel like there's a film or a show or something where there's like supposed to be rats controlling things, and I can't think off the top of my head what it is. So if somebody does know, then post it in the comments. Look, It's very bland from all the other angles, so not quite sure why we're being treated to those. But the rats are cool. It's a fun idea, but it's very, very dark, so I can't say I particularly like that. This, though, is very funny. The Secret Life of a Brick Separator. I adore the addition of the 2 eyes. Never would have thought of it. You've immediately made a character out of a brick separator, and it's just fantastic. Awesome idea. Being served a lobster on the beach. Do you know what? Just thinking of doing that with a brick separator. Round of applause. You deserve to be a winner in my mind. Okay, Secret Life of Martians. I'm assuming that this is supposedly NASA doing probe on the top of the planet, when really underneath the surface we've got all the different alien life going on. Oh, and I see we've got the alien holding it up, the picture. That's funny. Okay, this is a cool little design. Lots of things going on underneath, and some interactivity as well, which is good to see. I think this is a fun and fresh idea. Would be great in an exhibition. Again, loads going on, sort of thing that you could really take a look at from different angles and find fun stuff happening. So that's in the running as well. As for a mouse, we seem to be getting a sneak peek here of inside the mouse hole. So that, I'm assuming, is where would lead out to the actual house, and this is where our mouse has accumulated a load of different things, even managed to find plant pots of the correct size for itself, which is cool. It's got a piece of cheese here, and whatever this object is supposed to be, I'm not entirely sure. So let's move on from that. I think it's fun and quirky with the different things going on, and yeah, a nice little idea that mice have really got it quite good going on behind the scenes. Next on the list is the alarm clock, and there's lots going on in here. I'm just struggling to see exactly what this is supposed to be. I'm assuming a type of robot that is sort of working on the inside and obviously has a bed and maybe like a gym where it works out to do stuff. I'm struggling a little bit with this one to make out exactly the story behind it. Again, I'm not reading the descriptions. The bricks have to do the talking. Maybe it is just sort of the internal workings of the clock which the robot is operating, but then I don't really get why it's just got a bed. Yeah, it looks okay. Nothing wrong with the build. That's nice. I'm just a little bit confused about exactly what's supposed to be going on with that one. We will therefore move on to another toaster. Let's see the secret behind this one. The last one we saw was a dragon that was doing the toasting. This one, I've got to say, I don't particularly like the look of the toaster itself. The other one that we saw looked quite decent. This one's just very dark and doesn't have any contrast, so I'm not a particular fan of that. Trying to see the story of what's going on in the center. Ah, there we go. Okay, that's a much clearer image. So yeah, do you know what? It's another cool build. I like the idea of what would be going on inside a toaster, but I'm sorry, the other one definitely much more funny with the dragon, I've got to say. The other one has definitely got a lot more chance of getting my vote than this one. So, Secret Life of your phone's charger. Well, I assume it's just lazy and never actually does anything, because whenever I've plugged my phone in, it doesn't seem to have charged. Yeah, okay, so we've got supposedly the phone, which I'm sorry, I've got to say, I don't like the design of that at all. That's not particularly nicely built. The plug that's pretty cool. Looks to be an American plug. So, you know, just alienating those of us with 3 pins by the look of it. You know, going with a 2-pin system there. Yeah, look, it's a fun idea. You've basically got the person on the treadmill is powering for the phone. So, you know, it's quirky, but I've got to say, I don't particularly like the execution, the way it's been put together. Same, unfortunately, can be said for this, the life of the battery. We've got the little characters supposedly working out in order to power up the battery, but there's not much to it. The design, I don't really feel is that good. Sorry. We'll move on then to the Secret Life of Raccoons. I like this a lot more. I think the little brick-built raccoon is quite cute, and this is a pretty nicely put together kitchen. Lots of different things going on. They got the little baby even having a bath. That's fun. Okay, there's quite a lot of intrigue going on here. The more you look, the more things that you see. Does kind of look, though, from this angle like the big raccoon is about to cook the baby one. So that's not a fantastic position from the camera angle. That's better. Much more like it. I do like this. It's cute. It's fun. I think that's deserving of a few votes. It would look quite good. As for the coffee machine, what do we think of this? So open from multiple angles, got the little workers going on inside, basically a bunch of baristas in a tiny coffee shop who's actually powering the sort of espresso machine, which is a pretty fun concept as well. So I don't sort of like the way it's been put together as much of some as the others. I prefer perhaps some other colours, but then it might just be the pictures. I feel like these aren't the best pictures of this particular one. It's kind of hard to see exactly what's going on. So I'll give it a pass in that regard. The actual concept, really fun idea. I think that's pretty cool. So it does stand a good chance. Okay, so we then have the secret life of a retro speaker, which doesn't have a load of complex wiring going on behind it. No, in order to play your music, you have a mini band and even a little chihuahua that's working hard at keeping you entertained with all of your favourite songs. Look, the radio itself, I can't say is very nicely put together, but the interior that's got a lot of fun quirkiness going on for it. So perhaps with a few changes, a couple of improvements, then absolutely I could see this. Well-deserving votes and definitely being amongst those chosen. Now then, Treasure Island, The Secret Life of Pirates. A lot going on here. It is effectively a medieval pirate mashup, two of my absolute favourite themes. And we don't just have one skull, we actually have a whole crocodile skeleton going along the top and even a little fish down there to boot. If those scary skeletons weren't enough for you, there's also a shark over there getting ready to eat the pirate who has been suspended in the cage, and all of this is built around quite a medieval looking keep. There's quite a bit going on to it. It's very fun and it's combining two extremely popular themes, so I think again, just from an exhibition point of view, if this was on show, it'd get a lot of attention. So I have to give it a big thumbs up. I think it's a cool idea. It's been nicely executed. To my mind, it's well worthy of quite a few votes. As for this, The Secret Life of Robots, I think this is very nicely done. I kind of feel there's been builds like this proposed in the past, but with skeletons rather than robots. So this is a nice little change. And it's really quite sweet. Again, capturing an emotion. No eyes used in this, but they're not needed. It really does feel like our characters are looking at each other there. And sort of the gears are all placed nicely. It's got a good amount of implied movement. I really like it. I think it's fairly emotive. Really does make you feel like they're mid-dance, and that is worthy of being put on display. So again, I think it should get quite a few votes. Suspect if they really do pick 25 out of these 72, seems like quite a high number, but if they do pick that many, this definitely deserves to be one of the winners, to my mind. Very nicely done. And then lastly in the Secret Life of category is this, the Tooth Trolls, who I think are eating away at causing those cavities. I really do like the expression, especially with the way that the eye's pointing. That's quite fun. However, it's extremely simplistic, so perhaps a case of could we have a few more bricks and a bit more time into building out these characters? That would be nicer. But you know what, the idea that this is what's causing tooth problems for so many people, that's really fun. Is that, oh, and I've just realised, is that supposed to be like dynamite? I hadn't seen that. Okay, that really is good. It's fun and quirky. I think it could be improved with a little bit more details adding. Super fun concept. I think that will prove a popular one as well. On then to our final category, Mashup Madness. We will begin with this, the medieval meets fairyland. Pretty out there. Lots of fun colours mixed in with our medieval build. Sadly, can't say that I find them particularly complimentary, so wouldn't be to my taste, but, you know, castle builds do lend themselves to the fantastical, so it's definitely not a bad pairing. As for number 2, it is a space bear. Yeah, I think that's probably one animal that they didn't send up into space, but don't worry, they managed to put a load of poor other ones up there and leave them. It's a bit of a blocky build. It's not for me. Let's just keep it at that, plain and simple. By contrast, this is an idea that I am on board with. Space meets modular. It's not the best looking that I've seen on here. We're going to come to several others which I think are quite a bit stronger, but I don't think there's any denying that it's a fun design, and it does look, you know, quite cool, to be fair. Not bad as an exhibition piece. So next up is Captain Quixote's Dream Voyage. Not sure exactly what he's riding. Oh, it's supposed to be a crab or a lobster. Would have been better if it was a donkey, I'd have thought. That would have been a little bit more amusing with Quixote on the back. You know, it's a fun build. I'm not entirely sure that I like just the use of white here. Would have preferred some more colour in this one. But do you know what? For a buildable character that's been very simply done, it does have quite a fun expression going on. I think that's quite nice. Some more mushroom sprites, this time in space. And why not? I love the fact that they are riding what looks like a little ladybug rover. That's very funny. And quite a nice sort of cosmic background actually there. Look, lots of fun going on here. Always like the mushroom sprite characters. I think this is a fun build. Has a lot going for it. Wouldn't be surprised at all if this gets quite a few votes and would make for quite a nice one for the Lego House exhibition, I think. Now then, a combination of medieval and trains. You're talking my language. Yes, the medieval locomotive. Whoops, zoom back in again. Medieval locomotive, that is funny. We've got a turret on its side, which is sort of serving as the engine, propelling our loco forwards here. Even got the knight running away. Doesn't want to get impaled on those, that's for sure. Look, I think I do like this for a start. Let me just say that. It has been very nicely put together. As a concept, I think it's brilliant. A lot more could have been done with it as an idea if we're going to combine the medieval with trains. Opens it up to something that could be quite a bit more spectacular. That said, for a limited number of bricks, this has been put together really nicely. It makes me smile. It's a super idea. Looks cool, absolutely deserves some votes, and really wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the ones that are picked. Something else that I do like is the Space Steampunk Station. I do like all the steampunk things that are proposed through Lego Ideas. Sadly, none of them ever really make the cut, but this is a cool, kooky one. We've got our, again, sort of train that's going on here, coming through very much a Stargate space portal. Nice little platform as well. It really is the sort of thing that I like a lot. And likewise this, the medieval race. Another one that's really fun. The only thing that's missing from this is there should have been a big pole out the front for a joust. So instead of horses, they're using the racing cars. That would have been, I think, a little bit better. Easy addition to make though. And again, super fun idea. Love the way that these look, especially with instead of the normal sponsorships, you've got the shields on the sides and on the fronts. Another one that's deserving of a lot of votes. I think that's a great idea. We then have this, the Pirate's Dream, and it's, again, interesting. We've sort of got like a camper van mixed with the crow's nest, and I find it a bit hard just from these pictures to see exactly what's going on. It's a bit hard to take in. Would be better with just a single focal point, I think. But, it is fun, colourful, quirky idea. I'm not entirely sure what this sort of bat creature up here is supposed to be. But if we lose that and some of the other distracting things, I think this is a nice build. For something I find a lot clearer, though, is this, the Star Frigate. This is pretty nicely put together. Wonderful choice of colour and pieces here. It's kind of beautiful in a way. Great big skull on the front of the bow of the boat. I love these sails that are in the sort of solar satellite panels powering the ship. It's brilliantly put together, wonderfully thought out. If this was put on display in the exhibition, sort of thing I would spend quite a bit of time looking around. I'd pretty much like to build this and have it on display, to be fair. Very nicely done. I think that's in the running for one of my votes, that's for sure. And then, come on, top marks for fun thinking. The Lego Castle Game Show. A feud between the Lion Knights and the Black Falcons. Round of applause. Brilliant idea. I love the fact that they're sort of banqueting whilst they're having the sort of game show quiz. This is another one. I would love to have this on display because, I love all the different castles and medieval sets that we have. I like mocking them together, and they're all kind of serious, aren't they? Then to have this alongside them, just be brilliant. If they could make some of these into sets, I would be very happy. This should be one of them. Quite different is this, return point. So I think the idea is that the actual recycling bin has gone under the water, and now all of the sea fish are clearing up the litter and putting them into the recycling point, which is kind of funny if you think about it, and rather sombering in another, because sadly there is far too much litter in the oceans. It sends a nice message. I think this would be good for kids to see if it was on an exhibition. It's got an educational aspect to it as well. It's a great looking build, very pretty, and definitely an interesting sort of concept behind it as well. So have to say again, top marks. I think it's very good and very deserving. And then we have this, fantasy meets space. Okay, so sci-fi fantasy, and we've got our dragon here who appears to be doing battle with our sort of astronaut minifigs on an alien world. It's quite a nice dragon actually for a limited number of pieces and decent looking colours going on throughout. So not the most impressive out of the ones, I don't think. You know, quite intriguing again, pretty fun. Okay, moving on. Steampunk mech from the Roman Empire. Do you know what? I love Roman stuff. You know, got fingers crossed for Lego actually bringing out some more proper sets. And I'm not a big fan of mechs, but you know what? This is kind of cool. I like this. Very fun idea. Kind of taking inspiration from the whole Trojan horse thing, but actually putting our minifig inside a mech. Why not? It is a mashup after all. I think it's very fun. It's been nicely done and yeah, would look really cool in an exhibition. So big thumbs up. Like it a lot. Then there's Time Bears 4. I don't know if it's based upon something. It quite likely is. I am not familiar with it, and as mentioned, not reading the descriptions, so it's based purely upon the bricks. I like the bears. I think they're fun, but I really do feel like I'm missing the story that's going on here. So feel free to enlighten me in the comments down below, but I'm not reading the description. That would be unfair on the others. The bricks need to do the talking. Then we've got the Pug Can and Can Pug. So a mixture between a pug dog and a tin can. I don't know about canned food, perhaps been eating some magic mushrooms for thinking this one up. It's pretty weird and out there. Can't say it's for me. You know, lots of, you know, just the same colour and very simple in the way it's put together. So I don't particularly like it, has to be said. Our next entry is the performing duo. A couple of musicians drumming their stuff on a stage, and I quite like the buildable characters. They're fun. But once again, I don't feel that this is as strong as some of the others that we've already seen and a couple more to come. Quite nice to look at, but once you've seen it once, you're not going to spend too much time looking around it, I don't think so. Decent attempt. I just feel like there's better ones out there personally. A different combination is this. The Ocean Cowboys are Wild West gun-slinging saloon goers taken underwater. And yeah, the idea of a stagecoach that's been turned into a bit of a submarine, that's fun. And our sort of sea serpent here that's wrapped all throughout the saloon. I think it needed a bit more underwater marine life going on attached to it for it to make, you know, full sense story-wise, but fairly cool, quite quirky. Particularly like the stagecoach submarine. I'm a fan of that. Now, something for really quite different, the Castle Monster. Are sort of, on the face of it, very simplistic castle, but one that's been nicely put together in order to create very weird, wonky shapes, coming alive to attack the minifig. Again, something that's really left field, out of the box, like the skeleton that's unfortunately perished inside that giant maw. Looks like the Queen's been captured as well and put behind bars. But do you know what? There's a bunch of cute squirrels that don't mind the fact there's a massacre going on behind them. So, you know, all's right and sunny in the world there. It's a weird one, that's for sure. Definitely out the box. Would it be popular in an exhibition? You know, it's not the sort of the fanciest build out there by far, but they don't have to be. Sometimes they can just be fun. And this is one of them. So, yeah, I think this would be quite popular. Then we get a bit of a return on the mech front with the Imperial Mecha. It seems that the governor has had enough of those pesky pirates, and his troops weren't enough, so they've now got a giant Imperial mech that's doing the job of guarding the fort as well. I definitely think it's out there enough to be deserving of being on display. And you know, there's a lot of pirate fans out there. Good luck getting Lego to actually put that many minifigures on it, though. That probably wouldn't happen. Throw some pirates in there, and I think that would be a really cool one. Would get a lot of attention on display. Sadly, however, I don't think the same for this. So the aliens in the Middle Ages, you've got the spaceship, appears to be lifting off the top of a hill, leaving the little micro castle behind, and it's just too simplistic. I think it's nice, but I really feel this should have been bigger and had more going on. From an exhibition point of view, there's not really that much to look at it. You know, you see it for a few seconds and yeah, it's nice, but then you move on. So good submission, fun idea. Don't think that it stands up to some of the competition. The last one though for Mashup Madness is our Pirate Otter Overboard. And for something that is once again very simple with a few bricks, this is actually quite cute. I do like the otter, and let's not forget the little crab and parrot as well. But yeah, this otter definitely has something of Captain Jack about him, savvy. I think he's going to be asking where the rum's gone. All he needs to find is a couple of sea turtles, and he's got plenty of fur on his back to lash them together and make a raft. So definitely a fun build. I think it's perhaps a little bit too simplistic, but maybe again it could be fleshed out some more. And you know what then? Yes, it would make for a good display in the Lego house. Absolutely, why not? I think it's deserving of a few votes there. So there you go. Those are the 72. Where will your votes be going? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember, you only have until September the 12th in order to do it. I'll put the link in the description, so head on over and vote for your favourites. Congratulations to all the designers for putting in the time and effort to put forward what have been some pretty incredible builds. And of course, thanks to you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Check out one of these 2 videos next, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.